Hello, testing. 1, 2, 3. Audio seems to be working, so we can get started. And camera is on. Hello and welcome to Coding Pirates Billund. This is our second session for a new game. Just to show you what we made last time. We have a character that we can control with the arrow keys, and we can basically move around, and we have to avoid being hit by the flying apples, and they will multiply as we survive for longer in the game, so it becomes harder and harder to stay alive. Stop the game here. This is what we made last time, and we're gonna continue on this game today. The idea is we will be adding some power-ups, something that's gonna make it easier for our character to avoid the obstacles that we're gonna throw at him. So power-ups like you move faster or you become smaller for a certain amount of time. I think that could be pretty cool to make and pretty challenging as well. And then we can also make it more difficult if we pick something up that we shouldn't have, that makes the game harder, that the apples will move faster, so it becomes the opposite. But let's start with one power up. First we need something that we can pick up, either a new object basically that we have to, whenever that one appears, we have to collect it, and then we will get the power up. So first I need to find a new object. In here again, sprites on the bottom right, let's find and the image doesn't matter, or the picture. You can choose whatever you like. It's only the code that's basically important when we add that to it. So I will actually select a pink dinosaur, and you can see whenever I select it, it automatically appears inside the game. So whenever this pink dinosaur appears, I know that's a power up for me, and I can go and collect it, and then I can I think the dinosaur should make us smaller for, let's say, 10 seconds. That's the idea. We can change that as we go along. So first I want to change the size of my dinosaur. And the size you can find here in this center part. The default size is always 100, so I want to make that half the size. That would be the number 50. Pressing enter, and I think this is a decent size. We can change it later. It could also be 30, but I think that's too small. Actually, since this will be changing our size, I think it being smaller than our character or our player would make sense. So whenever we pick it up, we became the same size as the actual dinosaur. So I think 30 is fine for now. And we can just put it anywhere on the screen. We don't want the power up to be appearing as we start the game. It should appear after a certain amount of time as we have played the game. So let's say we survive in the game for 15 seconds, then it would appear, and then it can help us go further in the game. So let's first make the dinosaur appear after 15 seconds. That's the first job here. So we need to add some code to our dinosaur. And actually the only code that we're going to add here is that we're going to show it. Because we don't want it to appear as we start the game. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to find our green flag. So whenever we are starting the game, I want to make sure that this is hidden, and we can use one of our purple blocks for that. There's one called hide. This will basically do so we are hiding our dinosaur whenever we are pressing the green flag. And let me just zoom in so you can see the code here. So I can actually show you this. If you see the dinosaur here, now when I press the green flag as I'm starting the game, it will automatically disappear. So the next step is that now we need to wait a certain amount of time and then we will show it again. So we can actually just add a control block. There's one called wait, and then it has a number for seconds. In here I can type the amount of seconds I want to wait for it to appear on the screen again. And as I mentioned, I think 15 seconds is a good amount of time for me. For testing, we can put in 5 seconds, so we don't have to wait that long. But we can change this number later on in the game. You don't want to have it too big of a number, because if you're testing, you have to wait that amount of time each time. So here in the beginning, it's good to have smaller numbers, and then when the game is almost finished, we can add in the numbers that we actually want for the game. So the next block I need here is instead of having the hide, I need the show block. And that's also a purple one. Going in here. So these 4 blocks should make the dinosaur disappear, wait 5 seconds, and then make it appear on the screen again. So let's see what happens. Waiting 5 seconds, and it appeared. Now, I know it's gonna appear in the top left corner. I of course don't wanna know where it appears, because otherwise I would just be ready up in the top left corner. So we also need to give it a random position here on the screen. And we also have a block for that. If we go into motions, because now we're gonna move it, we need to go to a random position. Random meaning that could be anywhere on the screen and we wouldn't know where it goes. If you go to the blue ones and find the go to random position, this one actually will do this for us. So we're gonna add that right after the 5 seconds and just before we are showing it. Otherwise, I would then show the dinosaur and then I would move it so you would see where it goes. We want to move it first before we're showing it. So let's test one more time. It appears in a random position. And if I just try the game one more time, it shouldn't appear in the same position now. Now it should be somewhere else. And it was. So now we have our power up to appear random positions on the screen. The next thing I want to change is the name of my object down here. Since it is a dinosaur, but I want to call it what it is for the game. It's a power up that changes your size. So I'm gonna call this power up, and then space, and then size. So now this will be something that changes the size for me. Then you can press enter when you're done changing the name. So now we have our dinosaur that we need to pick up whenever it appears, and then it should change something on our player, which in this case is our cat. And then we need to go into our player and change some code here. So we need to add when we are hitting the dinosaur, then we will do something, and that will be change our size. So let's see if we can find a hit block where it asks if we're touching something. And I think we can find that in control. And let's see, we first need an if. So we need to ask, are we hitting something? So then we need an if block and then go into sensing. And it's the block at the very top. This one will say if it's touching the mouse pointer, that's your mouse that you're moving around. We can change that by clicking mouse pointer. We can change it into either one of the 4 edges around the screen or our other 2 objects. And this is why I wanted to change the name of my dinosaur. because you can see it actually has the new name here in the list that I made. This makes it easier for me to understand what it is and what I'm selecting here. So I'm gonna say power size. So now when we're hitting power size, then we can do something. And what we do should be in between the yellow block here. And to change the size, we are changing the looks again, and we go into purple blocks. There should be one changing our size. And we can either change our size or we can set the size. In this case, we want to set our size to something different. We don't want to change it. We want to give it a new value. So make sure that you have the one called set size. We don't want to set it to 100%. We want to set it to something higher because we want to. No, actually, we want to say we want to be smaller. So we need to be less than 100. So we need a number that is lower than 100. So let's just say 50. So whenever we are hitting the dinosaur, we will go down to a size of 50. So before this code will be working, we need to add a green flag and also a forever block. And the reason why we need this, the green flag is so we enable the code when we start the game. But we need the forever because otherwise the code will not be running all the time. And I can give you an example for this. You can activate any of your code if you just click it with your mouse, left click, and you can see it blinks kinda. That means it activates once. It only runs your code one time, and if it doesn't do anything, it doesn't do anything. If we put it in our forever and click it, now you can see the yellow edges around it keeps or stays there. That means that this code is active all the time. It keeps asking if it's touching our power size. So that enables our code to work. So you should have a block that looks something like this. So if we start the game, wait the 5 seconds, and see if we can hit our, oh, it actually spawned right on top of us. But you can see it did what we asked to. It changed our size to half the size. So now it's easier for me to, even though I lost the game right there, it's easier for me to avoid the apples in this size. So, like I mentioned in the beginning, this shouldn't be a permanent. It shouldn't be, I shouldn't be small all the time. I want to go back to normal size after a set amount of seconds. So we need to add a few more things in here. So right after the cell where we are changing our size, we need to add a wait block. And the wait block will be the amount of time that we are waiting before we go back to the normal size. So let's say I should be allowed to be small for 10 seconds. You can also say 600 seconds. That's 10 minutes. But let's just say 10 seconds so we don't stay small forever. And then we need to add another one of these set size and then put in the number 100 instead, so we go back to normal. So we can either go in and find the same block, or you can actually right click the block, and then you should have these 3 options. And if you just press duplicate, it should simply give you a set of the same blocks, and I don't need the wait block, so I can simply just remove that and then just add this one below. And remember to change this back to 100. So let me test the game. What should if you notice now, I'm still the same size, like still half the size, and I lost the game. So what is going on here? I'm still half the size when we start the game. That's because we should start the game and then set our size to 100. So like a default thing whenever we start the game. There we go. Wow, we became too large here. So here we need to add a few things. We want to put in the default values of our size and also in which direction that we're looking, either this way or that way. And we do that with the first green flag that we added up here. This already puts us in the starting position, and we can test the code simply by clicking it again. So if we click the code over here, you can see it puts me right back in position, or actually over here. Now we just need to add 2 more blocks to it. One block will be the direction that our cat is looking in. So let's find that first. So in motion, there is one called point in direction, and it has a number. If we add that here, you can just keep the standard number that is 90. If you want to see how it works, if you click the number, you can see you have a circle and then an arrow pointing in one direction. Basically, your character will point in the direction of the arrow that you see. So if you want him to point in the opposite direction, simply just move the arrow. But I want our character to move in that direction. So the number 90 is good for me. So I can test this one more time just by clicking the block of code. You can see he automatically points in that direction. The next thing is I want to change the size of my cat. And I forgot that I actually changed the default size from 100 to, I think it was 75. Yes. So instead of going back within the code that I just added to 100, I should go back to 75 instead. Otherwise I would be larger than normal. But up here in our starting blocks, we also need to add a size. So if the game is lost while we are half the size, we need to go back to our default whenever we restart the game. So let's find it one more time in here. Set size. And since my cat here is by default set to 75, I of course have to set the same value over here. Let's see if this works. I'm gonna change how long I'm gonna be small down to 5 seconds. So it doesn't take me that long to test. Oh, let's see if I can hit that. And I became small. And I still lost the game. So it's still difficult at this size. Maybe I'm actually gonna make myself smaller than this. So I'm gonna go down to a size of 30 instead. Because I'm so bad at my own game, I need to make it easier for me. This is the cool part about making your own games. Let's see if we can hit that. Oh, so now I'm super small. Oh, and then I became big. Okay, so one thing we need to add also is that whenever I'm hitting the power up, it doesn't disappear, meaning that I could just go down and hit it one more time to stay small all the time. So we also need that to disappear whenever we are gaining the power up. And for that we need to go back to the power size. Actually, I'm gonna change the name here. It's better to call it power up size. The name is totally up to you. You can choose whatever you like for the names. So in here, we basically make it appear after 5 seconds and at a random position. Now we also need to check: are we being hit by the player? If we are, then we should disappear again. So let's see. We will find another green flag here. Add that to the right. And again, we're gonna make some similar code here that we made on the cat. Just to show an example, we will make similar to this. So we need a forever and another if. So we keep asking a question here. Is the power up being hit by the cat? Basically keep asking this until it becomes true that it's being hit. Whenever it becomes true, then we will basically hide our power up again. Let's see here. So find a question in sensing and then at the very top here. And then add that in here. So again, with the namings, you can see in the list here, I have one called Daniel. That's because I call my player for Daniel. That's my cat. So if my power up is now touching Daniel, then we will hide it. So going into looks and then find the hide block. This should make it disappear, so we can only collect it once. Moving around, trying to get it. Yes, it didn't disappear. Something is wrong in the code. Let's try one more time. Doing that. Oh, and now it disappeared. Okay. So I know what went wrong here. And I'll just show you. Second. So if I hit, you can see it doesn't disappear unless I go directly into it. The reason why it did not disappear is because when we just touch the power up, our cat becomes half the size, and then it suddenly doesn't hit it anymore, and then it won't disappear. So we need to make some kind of check for that. Otherwise it would just keep staying there. So we need to make our cat either, I think making the cat smaller after a certain amount of seconds would solve it. So let's see if we can make that happen. So going back into where we change the size in here, and I'm gonna zoom in so it's easier to read. Let's do like this. There we go. So here I'm gonna add a slight delay of 1 second. So we're gonna wait 1 second before we are lowering the size. So here, then we add 1 second just above where we change the size, but still inside the if. And for testing, I'm gonna hide the apple so I don't have to avoid it. Because if I fail the game, I can't actually test it. So to do that, you can simply select the apple and then press the I with a line over it. Then it disappears. So if we're testing, now I can just play freely around. I don't have to avoid it. And it appears, and I go. There we go. And then 1 second after. And we move around and we become big again. Woo! And if we start the game, everything goes back into the right position. Pretty cool. So now we basically have one power up. This power up is good for us because now we can gain this power, and then we have an easier time of playing the game and surviving longer. The next thing is our power up is only appearing once in the game. We can make it appear multiple times, and I think we should try and make that. There are multiple ways of doing this. Let me first show you the first one here. So in our power up, and this is the code, this is the block of code that will basically make this appear for us and make it so that we can use it. We can simply copy this code by right clicking and then duplicate, and then say, let's say this one should spawn again after 15 seconds, then do it one more time, and then it should spawn again after 30 seconds. And then you can just keep going, and hopefully people shouldn't survive the game for more than, let's say, 1 minute, because then I'm trying to make it so difficult. But let me just show you how this will work now. So after 5 seconds, it should appear, and then after 15 seconds, it should relocate, and it did. And then it should relocate after another 15 seconds. So basically, if I don't pick up now the power up, then it will just relocate somewhere else on the screen. But let me show you if I try and pick it up. So let me just wait for it. Okay, and I'm taking the power up. I become small for 5 seconds. Then after another 15 seconds, it will then appear again, and I can collect it one more time. So this is one easy way of just basically duplicating your code to do the same thing over and over again. This totally works, but let's see if we can make it in a bit smarter way with less blocks in use. So just pressing the green flag to go back in position. So what we did here is we basically have 3 blocks of the same code that will make our power up appear 3 times during the game, or relocate 3 times. Let's see if we can make this appear through the entire of the game, depending on how long you can survive the game. Let's say you survive for 10 minutes, it should still be appearing for you, but after a certain amount of seconds. So let's start with our first block here and actually move these to the side. Let's look at this code. Let's see if we can find a way of making this a bit smarter. So right now we're waiting 5 seconds. I think we have a block in control that will... Yes. So we want this power up to appear forever during the game, but we also want it to not appear all the time. So it should either relocate or appear on the screen. So let me just start with a fresh block here. So I'm gonna remove these. So this is the original block of code. I'm gonna make a new one here to the left of it. So we're gonna do something forever, and I think we can use some of the same blocks over here. So first we are gonna hide it for sure, because we don't want the power up to appear at first. So we need something similar here. So finding another hide. So, and the reason why I'm not putting the hide inside the forever, if I were doing that, it would just hide it forever as the block says, and then we would never be able to see it. So make sure that one is outside. Inside the forever, we are gonna add a wait block. Let's find that again. And I want this power up to, let's say, I want this to appear every 15 seconds. And like I mentioned before, I'm gonna lower this to 5 seconds just for testing. So every 5 seconds, we're gonna do something. And then we're gonna use the same blocks here. So I'm gonna duplicate these and then add them inside here. So let's see, I activated this code now, and let's see what happens. It appears after 5 seconds, then it should relocate after another 5 seconds, and it did. And then relocate one more time after that. So this will actually keep going on forever and forever. And if I actually collect, oh wait, let me just stop the game. There we go. So if I collect it, I become small, then it will relocate and come back. Pick it up one one more time. That becomes smaller. So now this will actually keep happening throughout the game, even though you will survive for infinite amount of time. And I do think we can go without this code now. So we can actually change what we have here in the beginning to the new block of code over here. So let's remove this. So we just changed the block of code that would only run one time into something that will run infinitely, like forever. That's pretty cool. So now I'm gonna change the time from 5 seconds up to, I think 15 is more reasonable. Otherwise it would be too good. So we basically have our first power up that will appear and help us be better at the game. Let's try and make another power up. So let's first start with finding another icon for that. So this power up should be something about speed. I think that would be pretty cool. So that would make us, that would make us faster in some way. So something about speed, what could that be? Speed, let's see here, something that makes us fast. That could be a flying cat. Nah, let's go with a broom. Okay, so the broom is too big for the game. Let's make it a bit smaller. I think 50, let's try that. 50 is still too small. Or too big, let's say 25. 25 is good. And let's actually, so instead of just having this being a still image, so it doesn't move, let's make this rotate. So it looks a bit more cool. So first let's start by making it rotate. So when we start the game, it should just rotate. So let's find a green flag here. And then we need it to rotate forever. So we need our forever block. And then a motion to turn it. So I want this to turn to the right. So we have this arrow that you can see goes in that direction. If you put that in here and then start the game, you can see it just rotates all the time. I want it to rotate a bit slower, so I'm gonna make the number lower. Seconds. Start the game. Yes, I'm pretty happy with that. So again, we're gonna make this hide in the beginning. So we're gonna make a lot of the same code here for our second power up. First changing the name to power up, so we know what this is. So it's a power up, and this will change our speed. This is very good when we have a finished game. We know what all these characters are. These are power ups. This is the player. And this is actually the apple should be an obstacle. That's wrong. Obstacle, I think that's correct. Let's just call it that. And then press enter, because this is what we are trying to avoid. Going back to our broom here, we're gonna add the hide block, because that's the first thing. We don't want this to appear again in the beginning, so add the hide again outside the forever, not inside here. Now we again gonna, instead of making the same blocks of code, we're gonna just copy the code, so we don't have to recreate it, like build it one more time. So we can actually go in here and find the blocks here and then copy them into our new power up. The way that you copy is a bit tricky. I think you can right click, actually no. So the way that you copy it into a new character is by left click and then hold. So you drag it around and then drag it all the way down to the new character. So it makes like this. Let's see if I can make this work. Okay, so right on top. So the mouse should be right on top, and then just release. If I now go into the broom, you can see I have the same block of code now. And I'm gonna do that for the second block as well. So I'm also gonna copy this, because you also need this to disappear whenever it's hitting our character. So one more time, drag it down, release. If it doesn't work for you to copy the code this way, you can simply rebuild the code in here. It's the exact same blocks that you need to use, so it should be fairly easy. So actually, if we start the game, I'm gonna change the seconds for it to spawn down to 5 again and test it. So now we should have 2 power-ups spawn in our game. There it goes. After 5 seconds, it should relocate, and it did. Awesome. So now we should get the dinosaur as well. There we go. Awesome. So now we just need to add what the power-up does for us. Now we have it appear, and we can actually, I think we can collect it. So let's see if it disappears whenever I'm hitting it. And it did. So now it should just do something whenever we are hitting it. So let's go back to our player here. So here we have the power up for the size. We can add one just below it. So this whole block of code will be all our power ups. So we're gonna add another if, asking for if we are now hitting our speed power up. So if here, so make sure that you put it below the other one and not inside here. And then find the sensing up here. And change it into now the power up speed. This is where the names are very good, so we know what we are selecting. So to change the speed, we need to add what we call variables. And we have been talking about these before. It's a very important step to learn what variables can do for us. Variables to explain shortly is just a box that we can put something into, and then we can change what's inside it. And I'll show you this in just a second, or I can actually give you an example right here. So over here to the left, this block of code that I'm holding right here is basically controlling what kind of speed do we move around with. So the number 10 and the number -10 here are the speed in which my character will move. So if I play the game and I move around like this, this is a speed of 10. So if I were to change this number to 1, you will see that my cat is now moving super slow. So this is the number over here that is controlling how fast we're going. One thing that we can't do while we are playing the game is that I play the game right now, and for me to change the speed, I would have to stop the game, go out and change the block of code, and then start the game again. And that wouldn't work if you were like having friends to play a game. That wouldn't work at all. So the cool thing that we can do with variables are that we can make a variable that's called speed, and what this variable will have is the number 10. Then we can, while we are playing the game, change that number. So let me show you this in practice. So if we go down to the left here, where it says variables, we can now create a new one by pressing make a variable. And this variable, as I mentioned, should be controlling how fast we're going. That should have the number of how fast we're going. Let's just call this speed. And make sure that you have it for all sprites selected here. And then press OK. So now what you should see in your game there should be a new box saying speed and then the number 0. So to begin with, it has the number 0, and the box that we have is over here to the left. You can see there is now a block called speed. This block of code contains the number 0 right now. We want to change that into the number 10, which is our default speed that we have chosen. So to do that, we have to set with the next block here, set the variable. So if we add that here in the beginning, where we also are setting the size, where we are starting our starting position, now we're also changing the speed number. So you want to set the number in here and then change this to your variable name, and then to the number that you want to start with. That could also be 30 or 50 if you want to go super fast, but I think 10 is a pretty good starting number. So notice now when I start the game, it says speed 10 now. So that means this block that I had in before now contains the number 10. So for this, now you can see we have here where I showed you before the number 10. And this is how fast we're going. We can now use the block here and put that in instead of the number 10. So if I play the game now, you can see I'm still able to move at the exact same speed as before because I changed the number to 10. And to show you this, if I now I can't change the number down here anymore. I would have to change my speed number up here. So if I change this to 1 and then start the game, you can see I'm back to being super slow again. But let's put that back to 10. The cool thing we could do about this now is that when we are hitting the power up speed, we can now change our speed value to something else. So we can now set our speed. So make sure you select the set and not the change, and then add that in here, and then change this to speed. And now I can change that into a higher number than 10, which is my default. I can also make my character slower if I wanted to. So let's say I want to change this to 20. So I'm gonna go double as fast whenever I'm picking up this power up. Let's see if this works. I hope it does. So a power up should be there. Notice the number up to the left. It did not change. Oh, there we go. I didn't collect it. So now I'm going super fast, so I can't even control it. And I become small. Yes. So one issue that I have with this is that I'm not turning fast enough, but I think we should wait with that for next time. We also need to add that I should go back to the normal speed after a certain amount of seconds. So let's say 5 seconds again. So we can use the same trick that we did up here. We can wait 5 seconds. And then we can again set our speed down to 10. I think 20 was a bit too fast. I'm gonna go with 15 instead. So if we try this out, quickly try it out here. Notice the number up to the left. Didn't get that. I got that one. So now it's 15. After 5 seconds, it goes back to 10. Oh wait, I made a mistake here. Oh, okay. So notice my code down here. I'm changing my. I did become faster, but after 5 seconds, I'm changing what is called mean variable, and that's not something I'm using. I have to change this into the speed instead. So that's a mistake from my end. So trying again here. This is where the names are very important, so whenever we read the code, it should be easy for you to understand. Didn't get that. Let's see, up here. it might be disappearing before I get it. So 15 now, 5 seconds later, I go down to being slow. Yes. And now we can become small, we can pick that one up. So before we end today, let's bring back our obstacle here by selecting it and then pressing the eye icon. And now we have a game with power-ups. So we can play the game, avoid, try and get that. Oh, come faster. Pretty cool. Let's see if I can get that. Becoming small is pretty neat. Becomes very difficult. But I think that's it for today. We managed to make some power-ups. I think next time let's focus on making the game a bit harder, but also adding a timer so you can actually see for how long you have survived your game. That way you can also compare to your friends and family to see how good they are at your game. But that's it for today. I hope you liked it. Let me know if you have any ideas for other power-ups or for the game. Let me know and I'll definitely bring it in. But that's it for today. I will see you next time.